When I look at this receiver class, this was a very important, still is, because they're not done yet, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. They needed to have a huge year at receiver, and it was really threefold, right? The sort of the needs for this class. Number one, you needed numbers, just numbers. You need at least 4 receivers. I think 4 was kind of the minimum. If we get there and it's the right kids, we're comfortable with staying at 4, right? And so they got the 4 receivers, and as the goal. They would have taken 5 if it was the right 5, but right now it's looking like 4. Well, you're only halfway there, and there's only 2 guys left on the board, essentially. You needed to land these. So Jaden gets you one step closer to meeting your minimum need. And I actually think 3 is what they could get away with if they're also then able to say, hey, but we're going to have to bring in a transfer or grad transfer next year. It's not an ideal situation because that's not as easy for Notre Dame to do as it is at some other places. But they could do it. Now, I would ding them for not meeting their numbers needs from a number standpoint, but they're a guy away. But this gets you way closer. Now we get into the even more important parts, because numbers are okay, but numbers don't win you championships, right? Having 85 guys on scholarship doesn't win you a championship, right? Having the proper number of scholarship players at your at receiver for Notre Dame doesn't win you a championship. It's what kind of impact talent does that have? And that's the other box checked for Jaden Greathouse in this. This is an impact player. This is a kid that has a lot of potential, a lot of ability. We'll dive into the specifics, and Ryan will tell you all the reasons why he loves Jaden Greathouse, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And then there's the third aspect, Ryan, which we're not talking about enough, that needs to be emphasized, especially with Jaden. They're only going to have 4 scholarship receivers coming back on the roster next year. 4. That's assuming all the guys that could come back, right? I mean, who knows? Transfer, who knows, right? So you needed, not only did you need numbers to get your health depth chart to a healthy spot, you need at least 1, I would argue at least 2 receivers that can come in and get in your rotation the minute they step foot on campus. You could not afford for your freshmen to need a year to get ready, or at least not all of them. There's not a receiver on the board that's more ready to play the day he steps foot on campus than Jaden Greathouse. And that's something I have always felt, even as I've had to come around some other things. This is an important pickup, Ryan, because Jaden Greathouse is a kid that could be ready to help you the minute he steps foot on campus.
100%. I mean, it's said really well. We both love Braylon James's upside, right? But like, you would rather bring him along a little slower because he needs to continue to fill out and the final points playing the receiver position. Great upside, there's no doubt. But guys like Rico Flores and Jaden Greathouse could potentially play early on. And to your point, there's nobody more ready to play than Jaden Greathouse. He is a technician of all technicians, and he's physical, right? Like, you can tell that he cares about his craft. I mean, this kid is 6'2", 210 pounds, ready. You know, like, he could play. He could honestly go on campus right now and could compete. Like, he doesn't need his senior year to be a competitive player at the college level. Obviously, I want him to have that year because I still think that there is a upside that he can get to, and we've talked a lot about that. But he's a player immediately that if you're one of the, because I know you said there's only 4 scholarship receivers, but even if, like, let's say Deion Colsey, for instance, right, taking this a different way for a second, let's say he doesn't take a big step this year, then he is another guy that's going to be pushed heavy, because the minute that Greathouse comes in, he has that aura around him. He has that tenacity about him that he's going to come in and he's going to demand respect from the day that he steps on campus. Like, he is. There's something about him, man. He's got
Jaden Greathouse is not going to step on campus and be like, hey, you know what? You do you. Give me a year to get myself ready, and then I'm ready. No, he's going to be like, not only do I
want a red shirt, right? Like,
right. I want to play, but why did you throw the ball to that guy? You know what I mean? Like, why'd you throw the ball? Like, if Michael Mayer, why'd you throw to the Mayer guy? I was open. You know what I mean? Like, that's, and we talked, Sean Davis had mentioned that in our show on Monday too, Ryan, which is, this kid plays with a swagger, a confidence that you need. And Notre Dame hasn't always had that. And who he reminds me a lot of as a player, as far as like his swagger, his noticeable swagger. And I don't mean I mean this as a positive, right? Like, not like like how the U was, and all, like you want a guy that's confident, knows he's confident, and is going to let you know about it. I like that in a receiver. He reminds me a lot, personality-wise, from a swagger standpoint, to Golden Tate. Golden Tate's the most confident Notre Dame player they've ever had. I mean, Golden Tate just thought he could beat anybody, and often did. And Jaden Greathouse reminds me a lot of that. Like, you can see him like, yep, he's talking trash to that dude right now. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, he just kind of has that kind of charisma, that swagger that I don't know if we've seen it to that outward degree since Golden back in, especially back in 09. And I think you need a little bit of that at receiver. I really do. I really do.
Yeah. No, I mean, you need it because there is competition. I mean, it's like that, iron sharpens iron thing, right? Like Jaden Greathouse is going to force the best out of others. And because he forces it out of himself. I think the other thing, Brian, is the reason that he is going to be able to come in and do his thing is not only because he runs good routes and he's physical and he has good hands. He's also a worker, man. Like you can see it. I mean, half of his highlight video is him blocking, right? Like he puts dudes in the dirt. It's not just stalk block and get in solid position. Like he's putting dudes in the dirt, right? So the minute that he comes on campus, he's going to compete, and you need that, especially in 2023, because to your point, the numbers are going to be a little lower. They're going to be. So you need a couple guys that are going to make an impact. And I'm so thrilled for the program today because, I mean, let's be honest here. I got a little, I like Jaden Greathouse, like he's a really good football player. I got a little, his film is fantastic in my opinion. He's one of my favorite players. If there was my guy in this class, it's probably Jaden Greathouse for me. I just really think that he has the world of potential, but it's also big for so many different reasons. To your point, the immediate playing time potential, coming from Texas, bringing that charisma and that alpha mentality to the field. It's just, and he's a guy that, I mean, we're talking about a kid that at one of the premier programs in high school football, 3 straight 6A state championships in Texas at Westlake, 44 touchdowns. He's been playing football on that program since he was a freshman. And that doesn't happen very often, right? Like this kid is about as like he's checked every single box that you need in his high school career. And I'm very much looking forward to him seeing the impact he can make in South Bend.
So as a junior, he had 66 catches for 1,274 yards and 20 touchdowns, 19.3 yards per catch. For his career, he already has 182 catches, 3,134 yards, 17.2 per catch, and 43 touchdowns because he had 47 for 715 and 10 touchdowns as a true freshman. This is big time Texas football. This isn't like, playing in some little league nobody's ever heard of. He had 69 catches for 1,145 yards as a sophomore and 13 touchdowns as a sophomore. Now, he played with a great quarterback in Cade Klubnik. They were a great tandem. But as you watch that, you could see that Cade Klubnik had tremendous faith in Jaden Greathouse, especially if you watch game film, because some of the misses that Cade would have, you're like, why is he trying to throw that ball there? And you're like, oh, that's as you learn who Jaden Greathouse was, because this is when I was studying Cade Klubnik's film. Like, oh, he likes throwing to that number 9 a lot. Like he'll even force some balls at number 9. And so it just kind of tells you the kind of the rapport that those two had and the numbers that they put up. So, as you said, Ryan, checks all the boxes, helps get you closer to your numbers need, impact talent, can play right away.